Greetings friends, and welcome to Captain Samuel's Electric Leisure Dome. Today we will be reviewing Chakan, the Forever Man on the Sega Game Gear. This 2D action platformer is a game I had as a kid, and I remember it fondly for its bizarre levels, full of supernatural evils, and its absolutely metal story. At the time of uploading, this video is the only actual review of Chakan on Game Gear. My channel is a small amateur effort, although now that I'm up from 0 to 1 subscriber, I'm kind of a big deal. And what drives me to make these humble videos is to pay homage to these overlooked and underappreciated Game Gear games. Chakan is definitely one of those, so let's show this game some love by at least recognizing its existence. I no longer have the boxed Chakan, but fortunately I still have my original cart and manual. The Game Gear version of this game is so unknown that I couldn't find any image scans of the front or back of the box on the internet. From what I remember as a kid, the front of the box was the same image as the front of the manual. Chakan has a striking character design, and for good reason. This is actually a licensed game based on the comic book character Chakan. Chakan and his story are what make this game noteworthy. No princesses to rescue here, no big bad evils resurrected to take over the world, or any of those other tired video game story cliches. The story of Chakan is unique, and it's awesome, as the product of a heavy metal style comic book should be. Chakan was a mystic warrior, so powerful and so arrogant that he attracted the attention of Death. Death challenges Chakan to a duel. If Chakan loses, he must surrender his soul to Death. If Chakan wins, he is given the gift of eternal life. Chakan accepts the terms, and in an incredible display of mystic powers and swordsmanship, manages to defeat Death himself. Death fulfills the bargain, and grants Chakan eternal life, but with a hideous twist. Chakan's sleep is plagued by nightmares, as he must witness the agony of innocent people killed by supernatural evils. To escape this eternal torment, Chakan must destroy all supernatural evils in existence. So that's the premise of this game. Chakan must free himself from eternal torment caused by his own arrogant violence by destroying all supernatural evils in existence so that he can finally die and have peace. I love this premise. And it's all kicked off with the most metal, tremendously epic quote in a video game ever. He smiled and said, "To a man of death, from Death himself, a wager?" My friends, that is an S-tier story and opening cutscene. Now let's take a look at the manual and see what's involved in helping Chakan find eternal rest on his portable adventure. It begins by explaining again the story behind the game. It's still metal, but I think the in-game cutscenes writing is better. Now here's something important. Chakan has 3 difficulty settings, but they aren't labeled as easy, normal, or hard. Instead, they're given edgy names: wicked, deadly, and mental. That's cool and fits the theme, but without the manual, the player has no way of knowing which difficulty is which. They're not even presented in a hierarchical list, with easy on the bottom and hard on top. What's worse is that if you complete the first 6 levels on Wicked, you won't be able to access the final 7th level and achieve the better ending. So we're beginning to see that, as epic as Chakan's premise is, the game itself has some issues. The adventure begins with the player on a hub world, and the player can choose to do the levels in any order. The themes of the levels are described in the manual. Each level's atmosphere is distinct from one another, and the atmosphere of this game is a departure from most other offerings on the Game Gear. This isn't a romp through the colorful zones of a Sonic game, but a treacherous trudge through dim and grim hellscapes. The manual's writing when describing the levels makes that clear and presents them as exciting. The reason the player might want to explore the levels in a particular order are that there are several elemental swords hidden for the player to find. The player doesn't need to beat that level's boss in order to get the sword. For example, one can enter the Ice World, find the Ice Sword there, die, be resurrected by Death, and kicked back to the Navigation Hub World, and still have the Ice Sword. The Ice Sword can then be used to make the 2 fire-themed worlds easier. The alchemy system is another reason the player may want to complete the levels in a certain order, and this system is also explained in the manual. Alchemies are one-time use, temporary power-ups that the player can choose from using the pause menu. The alchemy powers that are available are determined by which combinations of 4 similarly colored potions the player finds in the levels. While the alchemies are described in the manual, the combination of potions needed to activate an alchemy is not provided. The player is intended to figure that out on their own. There's also one alchemy described as a mysterious alchemy useful only to one who is well versed in the dark secrets. As far as I can tell, this is just a beginner's trap. All that particular alchemy does is reverse the directional pad inputs, so that pushing left makes the player walk right, etc. So we've got the foundation for what should be an amazing game here, my friends. A unique heavy metal story set in a dimension of various domains of supernatural evil that can be explored in any order to hunt for magic weapons and mystic alchemy powers. Chakan as a game has so much potential, and I love it for that. Here's where things start to fall apart, and the potential goes largely unfulfilled. It begins with the controls. Here's the description in the manual of Chakan's moveset. Down plus jump, button 2, makes Chakan do a fast forward roll. Pressing button 1 makes Chakan thrust his swords, and holding button 1 plus D-pad input makes Chakan wave his swords in any direction. Button 2 makes Chakan jump. Pressing button 2 again makes Chakan tuck into a ball for a double jump, and pressing button 1 while he is tucked into a ball midair makes him spin his swords like a buzzsaw. Most of Chakan's moveset is unfortunately worthless. The basic sword attack does paltry damage. Waving the swords around doesn't do much damage either, but it does look like Chakan is an air traffic controller, which I always find kind of funny. You basically have to start pounding button 1 the instant an enemy appears on the screen, and if you're lightning fast and a bit presentient, you will destroy the enemy. What usually happens is that due to the Game Gear's low resolution and small screen size, by the time you see an enemy it is already on top of you, and it walks nonchalantly through your frantic sword flailing, unharmed and unfazed, to bump into you, knocking you back, causing damage, and sometimes stun-locking you as you're hit and knocked backwards over and over. The roll doesn't help much either. There are some giant spiders and you can roll under their legs to avoid them. Sometimes the roll helps you quickly bypass the gargoyle faces that spew drops of lava. These are situation-specific uses that rarely come up, however. That leaves you with the jumping spin attack as your most useful move. Chakan can saw through flying enemies using this attack, and he is invincible while using it. If he jumps into a ceiling, he will be pressed against it and can move back and forth, sawing away at his enemies as he leaps over and past them. Even though this is Chakan's best move, it's still underpowered and plagued with issues. It usually takes several passes of jump spinning through an enemy to destroy it. Due to the cramped screen causing enemies to pop out on top of you, it's risky to have Chakan actually walk anywhere. It's safer and more effective to have Chakan jump spin everywhere he goes. Now, Chakan's jump spin attack is basically the same as Sonic the Hedgehog's. In a Sonic Game Gear game, pressing button 1 or 2 makes Sonic jump spin, and he automatically hurts enemies and is safe from harm when doing so. That's it. One button press and Sonic's jump spin is used. Simple, clean, elegant. For Chakan to use his jump spin attack, it's press jump again, and then press sword. Button 2, button 2, button 1. You're doing this constantly, over and over and over again. It's clunky, tiresome, inefficient. So controlling Chakan and using his moveset to battle the enemies is tedious. Then to add more tedium to the game is the level design. Now the levels thematically are epic heavy metal. You've got dragons in desert hellscapes, a giant praying mantis that emerges from a pit of skulls, and wastelands with the banners of evil armies billowing in the wind. As metal as these set pieces are, however, the levels are mostly dull mazes. One-way doors that teleport you to other areas are the worst offender of this maze design. You're often presented with a row of several doors to pick from. Most of them will dump you back near the start of the level, sometimes with a potion to collect, while only one will advance to the next area in the level. Sometimes to get enough potions to use your alchemy abilities, you must intentionally take all the wrong doors that give you a potion or put you back at the start of the level. So you walk through the level, pick the wrong door, which sends you to an area empty except for a potion and a door that puts you back at start, pick up the potion, take the door which puts you back at start, walk through the level again, pick the next wrong door, get that almost empty area's potion, and repeat this tedious process until you found all the level's potions. You will need these potions to use your alchemy powers because the bosses are also tedious. If you can't use your spin attack to harm a boss, then you're stuck using your feeble sword attack. The bosses have no recognizable pattern to avoid, and either just stand there launching an unpredictable attack at you, or run back and forth much faster than you. Either way, you're going to take a ton of unavoidable damage. The only way to deal with this is to use one of the alchemy powers that temporarily makes you invincible. So you confront the boss, make yourself invincible, then press button 1 as fast as you can until the boss dies. It's dull. There are a few exceptions to this. The bosses you can hit with your jump spin attack are more enjoyable. Jumping around fighting the dragon is fun. The Fire Castle's boss jumps back and forth. Timing your spin jumps to pass through her and deal damage takes a certain rhythm. It's hard to tell in the Game Gear's graphics, but this boss is a dominatrix demon woman wearing black lingerie and wielding a greatsword. So Chakan does have that going for it. Now let's talk about the music. It's eerie, discordant, and unsettling at first, which is a good fit for the game. However, most tracks are brief loops you will hear over and over as you wander the maze-like levels. The music quickly gets on my nerves, quite frankly. I'd like to award Chakan a letter grade now, from F to S. Chakan is a game with an imaginative story and uniquely heavy metal, supernatural evil atmosphere. These positives aren't enough to overcome the cumbersome control scheme, lack of efficacious combat moves, tedious maze level design, and dull boss encounters. Chakan is certainly playable, and worth trying out, especially if you like grim supernatural game settings. It's not a bad game, but it's not a great game either. Therefore, Chakan gets a rating of C.